So this is the final episode. I hope so. I have therapy in 4 hours. What do we got, an hour? Oh my god, more than an hour. But it's okay. Look, it's been a while. I took a break, and then I did Jordan Peterson. I did take a bunch of Adderall. I took some psilocybin. I took some lion's mane, and I'm ready to go. Do I need a recap? No. I mean, if you're watching part 6 without watching all the others, I think you should continue doing that. That's totally fine. And let your intuition help you understand what's going on and what all this means. Because that's what brought you here in the first place. Do I need to do any kind of intro? No, I don't need... Oh, yeah, we're about to talk about Hila Klein and if she's a terrorist or not. I think that's where we're going here. So let's do this.
Accuse me of being racist. Are you talking about this guy? Are you talking about this guy?
IDF. Do you think it's appropriate to call your wife a terrorist?
I think you do. No, I don't.
You don't think it's appropriate? Okay.
No.
You have stated time and time again that you believe, to show how pro-Palestine you are, that you believe settlers are valid military targets. Who do you think is protecting the settlers who you claim are valid military targets?
Protecting them. It's fucking insane. Yeah,
in the process of their pogroms that they're doing.
Sorry, was Hila out there protecting settlers?
No, she was doing a night raid, as a matter of fact. And I didn't know any of this until recently, for the record, until a couple months ago.
Yeah, you're going to do the Raider of Ramallah snark bullshit? Go on. Yeah, your community doesn't harass anyone. She was 18 years old. She went on a ride-along to Ramallah for some kind of fucking mission. She stayed in the car, and then they went back, and that's all that happened. She's 18 years old, though. She's a secretary.
Taking someone hostage, you called him it, by the way. That person was a Palestinian living in his own, own fucking home, and your wife went on a raid to Ramallah, which you have called a terror city.
Yeah, that was an old clip. I don't think Ramallah's a
valid military target in that process because you've said that settlers are valid military targets. Do you think your wife is a valid military target? Do you think your wife is a terrorist?
She's not a West Bank settler. She's not a West Bank settler.
But she's in the West Bank.
Bad Empanada thinks she is. Bad Empanada thinks she's valid. Your friends over at Second Thought think she's a valid target.
You think she's a valid military target? That's my point.
Do you think she's a valid military target? Do you think she's a valid military target?
I do not, as a matter of fact. I don't.
Great.
Okay.
Right, can we please move on to this
listen to me. Listen
Hasan,
to me.
bro, you're making this unwatchable.
Listen to me. Okay.
We got to move on.
How does this make sense in your mind? You say Israel is doing genocide. She has participated in the kidnapping of a Palestinian in the West Bank. You say
you don't know who was kidnapped and for what reason.
We don't the settlers.
Well, we don't know who
protects the settlers, Ethan. Your wife did.
Kidnapped. They arrested somebody. We don't know what happened or what they did.
So
what if he fucking stabbed civilians? Doesn't that happen?
I'm
sorry. Do Palestinian terrorists never stab and blow up civilians?
They're placed under military detention. They are not actually placed. They do not go through a civil court process.
Do Palestinian terrorists ever commit violence on civilians that would warrant them being arrested?
They are not in the West Bank.
You don't know anything about this person or this raid.
In Ramallah, in Palestinian territory, your wife was an illegal occupier of a terrorist organization, also known as the Israeli Occupying Force, Ethan. Now, I know people that have also served in the Israeli Occupying Force, as a matter of fact. I've relied on breaking the silence.
By the way, her name is Hila. I don't know if you keep doing your wife. Why do you do that? Why do you keep referring to her as my wife? It's bizarre.
Okay, Hila, whatever, who cares?
Well, it just belies some really bizarre thing.
Stop
it's not random at all. It says a lot.
Listen to my words. Listen to my words.
Please.
I have no issue with someone as long as they have recognized their mistakes, as long as they recognize that was wrong. What I take issue with is consistently defending Israel. You have also participated in the defense of Israel. It makes no sense. You're inconsistent. You say it's a genocide, but people can't resist militarily. You say it's a genocide, but all the people who are outspoken are vile anti-Semites. Who is supposed to be able to resist against this genocide? Do you actually think it's a genocide?
Hila was doing mandatory military service. What should she have done?
There's numerous options. 1, religious exemption. 2, refusing to serve. But even then, I don't have a problem with her being socially conditioned into thinking that this is appropriate. I have a problem with what she's saying now. I have a problem with how she reflects on that and doesn't realize that was an unjustifiable thing to do. Those are real human beings.
You can talk to her, debate about it. I don't know what you're even referring to. Okay?
What?
I don't even know what the fuck you're referring to. You're just calling my wife a terrorist. Like, give me a break, dude. She did mandatory. Let me ask you a question.
She's talking on your podcast. Please,
you gotta let me talk.
How she went on a raid. She was
bored.
You have to let me talk.
The fact that you're just talking over me and being louder does not mean you're right. I promise.
What?
Being louder and talking more does not mean you're right. Okay? It's good to listen to what I have to say.
Okay.
She's part of mandatory conscription.
Did Hila not volunteer? Did Hila not volunteer to go to the West Bank on a raid because she was bored? In Ramallah.
Yeah, she's 18. It's understandable.
Okay.
We don't know what that guy did, though. We don't know what
so he could have been a vicious terrorist monster.
Yeah. What if he killed people? Of course. If he killed people, of course he would be worthy of being arrested.
Is Ramallah a part of Israeli territory?
I mean, it's complicated, right? It's under occupation. No, I don't think so, but it's under occupation, right?
Okay. So why was your wife in Ramallah?
Maybe are getting a terrorist that killed civilians. She sat in a car.
Complicated, Ethan.
She sat in a car and didn't even leave it and never did it again.
Your wife participated in an illegal raid according to international human rights. That is the reality. Now, I understand.
Are you upset if this person killed like a child? Would you be upset if this person they arrested like stabbed people? Like you don't know what you're talking about.
Talk about how
okay, fine. My wife's a terrorist, bro. What the fuck?
No, stop. Listen to my words.
No, my wife is a terrorist.
As many former IDF vets have on breaking the silence. If she talked about the night raid that she participated in the same way that former
IDF vets, only ones that regret it.
I have no issue with her.
You want to know why? Because I think
change. Okay?
I don't condone the raid, but I mean, see, we neither of us have any information about like what actually happened. You know what I mean?
There is no, you don't understand. She is illegally there. She is not supposed to be
she's
there.
a terrorist.
It doesn't matter.
She's
Her and her entire brigade was not supposed to be there. That is an act
I
of
don't think
terror.
she knew what they were doing. I don't think she knew what they were doing or where they were going.
What she participated in is
I don't think
called
she
a
knew
night
where
raid.
they were going or what they were doing.
What she participated in is called
Hey,
a
she's a
night
terrorist,
raid.
bro. Please, we got to move on.
The reason why the Israeli occupying force, the reason why the Israeli occupying force participates in these night raids in the West Bank,
you're making this unwatchable.
A constant feeling of terror.
Talking more does not make you right. Okay, you
The
got to
reason
understand.
why the Israeli occupying force
You're repeating
participates in
yourself.
night raids is to create a constant sense of terror upon the
We don't
Palestinians.
condone
who
it. She was
are
19. She
there
was
in
doing
their own
military
land. Listen to
conscription.
me.
She didn't know where they were going
Listen
or what
to
they were
me.
doing.
Listen
Okay,
to me.
thank you.
Listen
And
to
I'm
me.
listening, but you just keep repeating yourself.
The
This is what you
reason
do.
why-
You got to move on.
the reason why I know that. You
Son,
wanna know why I know
gotta
that?
stop.
Do
Do
you
you
wanna
want this to
know
be
why I know
unwatchable? Is that what you want?
What?
You want this to be unwatchable?
The reason why I know that, Ethan, is because of
take that as a
politically
yes.
silenced veterans who have come out and spoken out against this practice. That's why I know that.
Hasan, you say that Hila could have gone to jail and done a conscientious objection instead of joining the army. Why do you pay taxes?
What?
Why do you pay taxes to the
This is
United
your
States
big argument,
government?
Ethan? That I
Answer the
pay
question.
taxes and I'm morally culpable. I know. That's why I try to fucking fight
Why
against
don't you go to jail?
doing this shit
Why don't
every
you
day.
stand up for your hold on? Why don't you stand up for your principles and go to jail for it?
Because it would not actually stop. Okay, it would not actually stop. The reason why I'm saying,
What would stop?
I don't take issue with Hila's fucking actions then, as long as, just like you said, she was just 19 years old. I take issue with the fact that she still defends it on principle. She says the
What did she
Israeli
say?
occupying force is not a terror organization. You have a disagreement with him. Or
Well,
her, sorry.
I think I can see it from her perspective too, which is like, the problem with you is that
But you
everything's black
can't
and
see it
white.
from Rashid al-Haddad's perspective, and you
Yeah,
know
he's a
for a
fucking
fucking fact that
terrorist
your
because he
audience
wants to
also
kill
doesn't see
Jews
it, and
that
that's
use
why
it like
you
Anne
fucking
Frank.
constantly claim that he is a terrorist, whereas
Oh
your
my
life
God, bro!
was
Please,
complicated.
I want this to be watchable. Okay, let's move on, please.
Oh, okay.
Thank you. You made your
Got
point.
it.
You made your point. Okay. So specific.
So we start off with Ethan on the 3 of Wands and Hasan with the Strength card. This is if it was just 3 of Wands versus Strength, I would say like that's a pretty good way to describe this particular subject. I think Hasan has the upper hand because yes, if Ethan is calling the IDF a terrorist organization and Hila served in the IDF, then according to Ethan's definition, Hila is a terrorist. I don't think that is what Ethan believes, and I think Hasan doesn't truly believe that either. I think it's more so about making a point. We got reverse 1 of Wands and a reverse High Priestess for Hasan for the rest of this conversation. This would be more like, I mean, with the Strength card being the first one, the way to kind of kick off this subject, and then reverse Ace of Wands and reverse High Priestess, I kind of view that as Hasan has the upper hand here with at least the topic, and whether his strategy is intentional or not, he can afford to sort of like hold back on attacking Ethan, going straight for the jugular. I think he knows Ethan well enough to kind of like get that. He knows Ethan and Hila well enough, I think, that he's not really going to really try to push this idea that Hila is for sure a terrorist. It has more to do with Ethan's point, where he's very critical of terrorist organizations, but he doesn't really seem to maybe understand what that word means and what it denotes and what it means about the individuals within a group. So Ethan starting off with a 3 of Wands, I think that was a good way to see it, where like, Ethan, this isn't going to go good for you. This isn't going well. If only he had access to me and my tarot ability during all of this. I feel like I could really help Ethan Klein a lot. I can help him defeat Palestine. I would never. But I could. I mean, it depends on how much he paid me. I mean, if you pay me enough money, I will flip my politics right now. I'm saying it. I'm just throwing it out there for anyone who has millions of dollars and they need someone with psychic ability to change the universe for them. All you got to do is give me millions of dollars and I'll do it. All right, so then he goes into a reverse 9 of Pentacles and then a King of Wands. So speaking of millions of dollars, I do think Ethan has the ability to flip the switch on this whole thing. I'm being a little too facetious right now. But I think with that ending King of Wands thing, I was interested because I was waiting for this to really kick into gear here, and it did. I think like Ethan kind of understands certain things enough that he was able to hold himself well enough by the end of the argument. I don't think he won that topic as much as he was able to throw in a couple of good points near the end regarding taxation, And it is interesting because I do wonder if they get further into Hasan and his financial contribution towards Israel, both via taxes and also revenue for Twitch and Amazon. I'm curious if that will come up. I don't know. But it is interesting that this came up near the end, and then the taxes thing. I am going to try to keep it down to 3 cards, and then the third card I will assume has to do with more so what to expect with the end of the topic. But yeah, all right, cool. Let's keep going.
Typically, you said this, which is, you said in the context puke, you said this was the worst thing I did. So let me play it, okay? And then we can discuss.
More Jews displaced than Palestinians.
Let me go back to
1948
just to give the whole context.
Expelled them in massive amounts following the 1948 war. In fact, there was more Jews displaced than Palestinians.
This was one of the worst pieces of misinformation I've seen in the fucking context puke. For the record, it was crazy.
So Mike, again, nicely done. Let this guy hold your hand and formulate your opinion. But he's not here to help you, okay? So you tell me what was wrong with what was misinformation about saying that 900,000 Jews were displaced?
You make a comparison between Planned Dalit, which is a planned ethnic cleansing campaign, to, one, horrify Palestinians inside of villages that had actually no arms whatsoever because they had specific peace agreements that they've done with Jewish villages.
What was the exaggeration?
No,
this is a comparison question.
And then,
what was the
letting survivors tell the tale.
Answering anything.
You asked me a question and I can't even fucking answer it.
You're not answering it. You're not. You're just going on and on.
I'm answering it. Ethan.
What was the exaggeration?
Ethan, sit the fuck down and listen to the history lesson. Okay? You're going to learn a little bit right now. Okay? Deir Yassin is Pantura. These are 2 very famous massacres that took place.
You're going to learn a little bit. Oh, look at that. Right when that fucking came up, that's when he said that. Isn't that fucking insane, right? All right, keep going.
The brigades, the militant brigades, the Zionist brigades that then formed the IDF, including some that personally called themselves terrorists, by the way, Lihi and Irgun, went in and did horrifying mass rape, kidnappings, throwing people in ovens. And then the survivors left to tell the tale. In that process, these brigades would go to each individual city and forcibly ethnically cleanse 750,000 Palestinians. This is known as the Nakba.
What the fuck does that have to do with the Jewish refugees? Answer that question. I know what the Nakba is. I don't deny it.
Do you think that is even remotely comparable to Jewish people leaving, sometimes voluntarily and sometimes because their governments had made deals with
either Israel or France? How many of the 900,000 left voluntarily?
I don't know the exact number of how many left voluntarily.
Take a guess. Take a guess.
I would suspect that a big chunk of them, you're going to say, did not leave voluntarily, but that is not the case.
Well, you're lying and you're fucking dead wrong. You brought up the fact that I talked about what happened in Iraq. So let me give you a timeline of what happened in Iraq. 1932, they gain independence. 1934, Hebrew is banned. Jews are fired from government positions. 1938, Zionist activity is outlawed. Crimes as trivial as possessing a biblical map of the Holy Land will send you to jail. The Farhud program, inspired by neo-Nazis, Rashid al-Khalini, killed 180 Jews, hundreds were injured, widespread looting, property damage. 1947, Jews were banned from immigrating because they didn't want them to go strengthen the state of Israel, and they wanted to hold them prisoners against Israel and the West. In 1948, the war begins. Jewish banks were forbidden to transact with foreign countries. Jews were arrested for Zionist activity, for economic crimes. They were fines that were paid to the Ministry of Defense. In 1949, a month after taking office, the British learned that they were planning to expel the Jews from Iraq before they even left. Does this sound like voluntary? Does this sound voluntary?
For those that have not watched, starting with part 6, 4 swords means more than just 4 swords for this topic. 4 swords we kind of have decided is the swastika sword, which relates a lot to the covert anti-Semitism that Hasan may or may not be pushing, but particularly the 4 swords is something that Hasan cannot escape. He cannot escape the reality that Jewish people are victims of anti-Semitism. This is something that is reality. Now, is anti-Semitism as bad now as it was in the 40s? No. But it is still something that Jewish people have a right to at least be worried about, right? And Hasan being so eye-rolly about the swastika sword thing kind of demonstrated the fact that he doesn't take, he doesn't take anti-Semitism seriously enough. And that is overall somewhat of a detriment to everything he's trying to do. So I do find it interesting that we get the sun and then the page of swords for Hasan. I've been saying this throughout the entire series. The biggest problem with these guys is that they don't really listen to each other. And I think Hasan needs to listen. If he wants to be someone who's going to spread knowledge and tell, all right, let me teach you something, then he has to be willing to listen to Ethan when he's able to fucking teach him something about anti-Semitism. The thing that is still in Hasan's peripherals, the thing that he's not really paying much attention to.
Okay, that's voluntary?
Dan, I sent you a clip. You can play.
No.
One of the most important scholars on this issue
is
an Iraqi Jew by the name of Abu Flame.
Yeah, I love this. Let's listen.
Okay, let's listen to it.
Jews were convinced that Israel had a hand in uprooting them. After the 1948 war, there was mounting popular hostility towards the Jews in Iraq. 5 bombs exploded in Jewish sites. The series of bombs created a panic which led more and more Jews to register to leave the country. I met an elderly friend of my mother's, an Iraqi Jew called Yaakov Karkukli, who had been in the Zionist underground. One member of his group, Yosef Basri, a very, very intelligent Jewish lawyer, and his assistant, Shalom Saleh Shalom, were responsible for 3 out of the 5 bombs. Basri's controller was an Israeli intelligence officer.
And so let's grant that what he's saying is true and that 3 of the 5 bombs were done by Zionists, right? How does that explain 150,000 people leaving the fucking country?
Why?
Thousands of years of civilization that have been there, 2,000 years, just picking up and leaving, almost virtually gone. How does that explain that?
Why is it that the Israeli government, benefited from creating instability and making it seem as though these countries were uninhabitable? And why do you think that, despite the fact that Iraq and numerous other countries have offered Israelis or Jews a right to return, why has it failed on the Israeli front for numerous reasons? I know why.
Let me tell you an inconvenient fact for you, Hasan. Let me tell you an inconvenient fact.
That happened right as
Before the
Israel was
bombs
being
went off, Before the bombs went off, 100,000 of the 125 Jews were already registered to leave. Do you want to explain that?
Yes, Jews wanted to go to Israel, Ethan. They liked the idea.
Okay, great. So let me hear what Avi. Okay, so
you're Israel. What do you mean?
You're a liar. You're a disgusting fucking propagandist liar. Here's what Avi Schleim actually said.
Research I studied,
Scumbag.
one hand grenade was lobbed by a young activist in the Istiklal party, which wanted to expel the Jews from Iraq and confiscate the properties. And another hand grenade was lobbed into the Masoud Hashem Tov synagogue, and there 4 people were killed. And he was a criminal who had a grudge against the Jews, and it had nothing to do with the Mossad.
Did you hear that? The first 2 had nothing to do with the Mossad. But let's continue to listen to the respected scholar, Avi Schleim, you fucking liar.
Nope,
you listen to this fucking historian. Yes, you said they left by choice. They left because of Zionism. They left because they were being threatened. Let's hear what your respected historian has to say, you liar.
That's right.
Listen.
Even if all this is true, the main reason for the exodus was not the bombs, it was persecution by the government. And I concede that. It's not part of my argument that the bombs were the main reason for the liquidation of this community. But my answer to my Zionist critics is, even if I knew for certain that not a single Iraqi Jew left Iraq to go to Israel because of the bombs, I would still think this is a real indictment of the state of Israel, because Israel was created to provide a safe haven for Jews, not to be harassing and threatening Jews in other countries.
By the way, he said, and I'll quote it for you, we did not leave Iraq because we were Zionists. We left because we were no longer safe. He wrote that in his book, 3 Worlds. Have you read that book?
No, I have not read 3 Worlds.
Okay, well, you're using a lot of source from it. It's a book that he wrote about his migration.
He wrote about this. But go on.
Have you read any of the other ones?
Yes.
Really? Which ones?
The book that I'm referencing is from the Iron Wall.
3 Worlds, okay? He writes about his time in Iraq, he writes about his time in Israel, he writes about his time in the UK. In 3 Worlds, he writes about his own family, and he describes their departure from Iraq as traumatic, disorienting, and not voluntary. They were not proud Zionist migrations. They were leaving out of fear.
Ethan.
He said that himself.
Ethan.
He said, we did not leave Iraq because we were Zionists. We left because we were no longer safe.
You are failing to comprehend a very important reason why I brought up Avi Schleim, by the way. And here's
because you think he supports your claim, but he absolutely does not.
No,
that's why, because you're a fucking liar.
He absolutely does.
Contend with what I said. No, contend with what I'm saying. He said we did not leave Iraq because we were Zionists. We left because we were no longer safe. Do you want to explain what he meant by that? Explain what he meant by saying we didn't leave because we were Zionists. We left because we were no longer safe.
Okay,
explain to me.
I can't wait to bring up Avi Schleim on the broadcast to make you fucking look like a dumbass.
I can't wait to. And now explain what he means by that. We did not leave Iraq because we were Zionists. We left because we were no longer safe.
You are not Palestinian. You fucking moron. You racist piece of shit. Because Iraq and the pan-Arabic nationalist movement that arise out of Zionist
you are out of your mind.
About Palestinians.
Okay, so what did the Jews in Iraq have to do with fucking Israel? You bigot. You are so out of your mind. Dude, you screaming and grandstanding doesn't mean you're right.
Government's racism during the pan-Arabic nationalist movements as a vindication for why, or a comparison of why Israel had to do the Nakba.
Do you think
fucking racist piece of shit?
Thanks,
do you think Iran? Do you think all Arabs have one fucking mind? Is that what
you think? Why the fuck were the Iraqi Jews leaving Iraq in fear?
Of course there were Iraqi Jews that left Iraq in fear.
Because why? Because why? Answer the question. You want to call me racist? Why were Iraqi Jews leaving to go to Israel?
You're a fucking moron who doesn't understand.
That's why they left. They left because I'm a fucking moron.
That Arabs are not one-minded.
You coward. You coward. Answer the question. You're going to call me racist, but you won't answer. Why did the Iraqi Jews leave Iraq?
There were numerous reasons.
Because of anti-Semitism. They hated Jewish people. They had nothing to do with Israel. They were forced to leave. They were chased out. They lived there for thousands of years. They had businesses, they had homes that they were forced and abandoned to go to Israel because it was the only fucking place they could. Why would Iraqis hate the Jews living there if they had nothing to do with Zionism or Israel? Why?
Because settler colonialism was already.
That has nothing to do with them, you absolute fucking dumbass. What does that have to do with the Iraqi Jews?
Do you think the Aliyahs were happening initially?
So you're blaming them? Are you blaming the Iraqi Jews who had nothing to do with it? What the fuck is your point? You call me racist.
I'm not justifying the racism. I'm not justifying it. You're not comprehending
my point. Yes, you are. They left because Iraq turned on them after 1948.
Ethan,
you're materially wrong. You're a liar.
That there were numerous reasons why other countries, I know, hard concept, all Arab, they all have the same mindset.
I know, let's go over them, genius.
Nationalist movements as states were being
Let's go over them. In Egypt.
Mostly by Western nations.
You want to talk facts? Let's talk facts.
Ethan, you don't know. You got fucking a ChatGPT summary. Let me explain to you so you can fucking not look like a dumbass.
Okay, do you want to listen or do you just want to add home?
No, I want to tell you my perspective.
No, you want to talk. That's the problem. You don't want to listen. You talk plenty. You call me racist, bro. The least you can do is shut the fuck up and listen to me talk, okay? The Iraqi Jews left because they were in fear of anti-Semitism. They had nothing to do with Israel or Zionism. The Arabs in Iraq, the Iraqis, turned on them because of what happened in the war in 1948. That had nothing to do with them. So if you want to blame the Jews for their own anti-Semitism, you go right ahead, but that's racism. Now let's talk about Egypt.
Recognize that.
No, you're not. You are absolutely not. In Egypt, 75,000 Jews were displaced. Okay?
Ethan,
Following anti-Jewish riots and bombs in Egypt.
Palestinians. Is Egypt Palestinians? Is Iraq Palestinians? Why were the Palestinians never
got
allowed to
nothing to
return?
do with that. They were forced to go there by the Arab countries.
Offered the Jews that were expelled or left on their own voluntarily. These are completely separate countries.
Nobody's justifying the Nakba. No one is justifying the Nakba. I'm explaining how.
Oh, right. Okay. I was kind of lost. But yeah, no, this conversation's quite electric, isn't it? I didn't need to look at the cards to really be able to tell. Just as a way, I mean, it's interesting. Hasan got 3 reversed cards. Started off with reverse 10 of Pentacles, which is kind of like a warning sign for Hasan. Like, oh, dude, you better slow down a bit. I mean, you could do okay if you just, like, pay attention, collect your thoughts. Reverse 7 of Wands versus a Strength card for Ethan, which is basically like, okay, you're losing, Ethan's winning. Kind of what's going on there. And then to a Sun card where Ethan starts really explaining this whole displacement issue to Hasan in a way that demonstrates that he clearly is somewhat more knowledgeable about this particular issue, which is interesting because Hasan is supposed to be more of the historian on this matter. But Ethan seems to know a lot about this particular thing. So that was kind of obvious from the conversation. I think Hasan started yelling at some point. You know, he had a reversed hangman roughly around that time. Right before it, maybe. And to me, that was just saying, dude, you lost this whole... Not this whole debate, but you definitely lost this thing. You're just now calling Ethan a racist while intentionally misunderstanding his point, trying to say that he's just equating Iraqis to, or he's confusing Iraqis for Palestinians. It's a possibility that Ethan lost track of the conversation and forgot that this is about Palestinians. If you were paying more attention to your opponent, listening to what he was trying to fucking enlighten you on, it might seem obvious that that's not what's going on. And you could probably have created a better argument overall if you just calm down. And this is how debate works in general, right, guys? You calm down and you pay attention so that you could come up with a good argument. You're not just trying to be louder and be more of the, like, the morally righteous person. You're trying to rationally break down someone else's points and demonstrate why you're correct. Even if Ethan is racist, even if he had a point saying, "Oh, Ethan just made a mistake," it would have came out better if he had waited for Ethan to finish his point and then just said, "You know, we're talking about Palestine, right, Ethan?" But even that would have been obnoxious because, you know, I think it would have been ignoring Ethan's points. So, but definitely the yelling thing, it's just eye-rolly. So, all right, keep going.
It's fucking insanely racist to discredit the plight, the running of
racist.
discrimination.
The plight. I think
but I'm not justifying the Nakba. You seem to be justifying why Jews were chased out of their home country.
No, I'm not, Ethan.
Why'd they leave? Why'd they leave?
You think
Why'd they leave?
You think that because you want to drive home a point that this is.
Why did they leave their communities that have been there for 2,000 years, leaving their money, their businesses, their homes? Why did they leave?
Do you think Iraq is Palestine? Do you think Egypt is Palestine?
Nobody's defending the Nakba.
Do you think that all Arabs are operating on antiquated anti-Semitism? And if your answer is yes, why the fuck did Jews find the Ottoman Empire to be a safe haven for fucking hundreds of years?
Let's talk about the last 100 years.
In Western
Europe,
Europe,
the Ottoman Empire was great for the Jews. Let's talk about the last 100 years. Let's talk about 1948. Anti-Jewish riots broke out after the war. Hasan, you need to shut the fuck up and listen, okay?
Oh my God.
After the war, okay, in 1948, there was anti-Jewish riots and bombs in Egypt. Why was that? Because of the Jews? The Jews brought it on themselves? Following the establishment of Israel.
What are you talking about?
Of course you did.
No, I didn't. I did not make that difference at all.
So they left because Zionism.
No, Ethan, if you were to listen to my words, and I use them very carefully, even though I get heated sometimes.
Careful, right.
Okay? Egypt, Iraq, Morocco, each of these countries where Jews lived in the MENA region all the way to the Levant had different reasons. Some of them were direct pogroms. Others were the colonial...
You are a tangibly, historically proven liar.
And I feel that some of them were because of pogroms. You're not hearing anything I'm saying. You're so conditioned to saying
no. The amount that left because of Zionism was minute. They were chased out. Ethan. They were forced to become Zionists by their oppressors because they had nowhere else to go. In Egypt, following the establishment of Israel in May 1948,
none of these countries are Palestine.
That is an insanely irrelevant point. A series of bombs targeted Jewish areas in Cairo between June and September. They killed 70 Jews, injured 200. They confiscated Jewish-owned businesses and synagogues were attacked and destroyed. Okay.
Ethan.
Right, I'm just gonna read these cards here because I think the Four of Pentacles for Hasan is really important right now. I think the reverse sun came up for Ethan because he's just kind of repeating his point now. He's not really the issue is, of course, lack of communication with these guys. But Four of Pentacles for Hasan, I think, is saying, like, dude, you don't understand that trying to say, but it's not Palestine, it's Egypt. It's not Palestine, it's Iraq. Which could be a good point. It could be. I'm not saying that that's a terrible point. But Ethan's point has more to do with the idea that Jewish people were forced to become Zionists and to develop some kind of state. That is the kind of the crux of his argument, and that's the crux of a lot of people's arguments who are like quasi-Zionists, like people who are not Zionists by definition, but they tend to defend the Zionist project in some way. Hasan may be able to defeat that. That may be a good or bad argument. If you keep ignoring the point and trying to make the point in your own way, when you remember, Ethan's the Wheel of Fortune here. He's the Wheel of Fortune and the star. So you're not going to be able to control anything about this conversation. Really, like a good debater, they show up and they just debate. They don't try to dominate anything. They just debate, and that's usually all you need to do. You will do a really good job as a debater if you can just answer directly what people are saying. But Hasan is not doing that. He's still trying to just like make this one point that is just not getting through to Ethan, and it doesn't seem to really be disputing Ethan's point. It's sort of just like another point that could be relevant later, or like just one sentence after acknowledging what Ethan's trying to tell you. All right.
One is direct violence, direct planned violence and an extermination campaign. The other
approximately 25,000 Jews were expelled from Egypt.
Falsely misplaced hostility.
25,000 Jews were expelled
from other countries.
So are you blaming them?
You don't understand this. And
are you blaming the Jews for getting? Are you blaming the Jews for being expelled from Egypt? 25,000 of them?
No, Ethan. If you listen to my words, you would understand.
So what is it I exaggerated about? 900,000 Jews were displaced.
Because you are making a comparison with different countries versus one singular force that planned an extermination campaign, planned an ethnic cleansing campaign. Other countries and the reaction to it, or other countries and the previous hostility towards Jews have nothing to do with Palestinians. So making this comparison
that's why it's anti-Semitic. That's why it's anti-Semitic. It has nothing to do with Palestine, but they still got kicked out for being Jewish. That's literally what anti-Semitism.
It's like
1,000 Jews in Egypt were arrested and detained without charges. The government seized 500 Jewish-owned businesses and froze bank accounts. Expelled Jews were compelled to sign a declaration donating their property to the Egyptian state and were allowed to take only minimal personal belongings. In Algeria, 130,000 Jews were expelled.
They're not Palestine. They're not. They're just Arab. They're not the same fucking people.
So my point is very simple. They were expelled from their homes because of anti-Semitism.
Ethan, you used Egypt as an example.
Sorry, what is wrong about that? What is wrong with what I just said? They were expelled.
We're literally controlled
please, you've got to fucking answer a question.
By the English and French colonial occupations. What are you talking about?
They were expelled because of anti-Semitism. What did I say wrong?
Oh my God.
Go ahead.
Algeria was under French occupation. It is the design where the French occupied Algeria did not squash the attempts of expelling Jews. I'm not saying that there wasn't actually.
Most Algerians were French citizens and went to France.
Caused Jews to feel unsafe, Ethan.
95% of Algeria's 140,000 Jewish population.
Individual, often sometimes Western powers, and what they allowed in those countries on the Palestinian plight. When you make this comparison, that's what I'm saying.
Is it anti-Semitic for Jewish people to get kicked out of their home?
Right? The Turkish, the Ottoman Empire, and the forces and the Ottoman genocide that they conducted, a mass extermination campaign, is because other fucking random countries where Armenians were.
Iraq happened after independence and as a
Turks were getting dispelled in other countries.
The pogrom happened as a direct
that's the way it was
result of the war, bro.
That it was a necessary voluntary migration.
By the way, oh my God, bro. Did you say Anne Frank died before she could resist? I don't know if that was a fever dream.
Wait, I'm saying that, like, would you have an issue with Anne Frank if she actually was able to?
Sorry, I just thought it was an insane thing to say. I'm not trying to litigate it. In Tripoli, anti-Jewish riots broke out amid post-war unrest. Synagogues were burned. Jewish institutions were shut down.
What's your point about Anne Frank? Why are you trying to deflect away from what I'm saying here?
No, I just think that statement was insane. The Six-Day War backlash. In 1967, another Israel victory. Jewish communities got mobbed. 6,000 Jews were evacuated. Homes were destroyed. Synagogues were burned. In Morocco, 250,000 Jews were expelled. Anti-Jewish riots broke out in 1948. You'll notice most of these pogroms are happening in 1948 as a direct result of the war. The Arabs turned on their Jewish populace out of anti-Semitism. Period. Point blank. June 7 to 8, 1948. In northeastern Morocco, following the Declaration of State of Independence of the State of Israel on May 14, 1948. Anti-Jewish riots erupted in the town of Jarada. These towns were significant transit points for Moroccan Jews seeking to immigrate. 47 Jews were killed, many were injured, Jewish homes and businesses were looted and destroyed. In 1950-1960, harassment and immigration. The year following 1948 riot, Moroccan Jews faced increased pressure. These factors contributed to a significant immigration of Jews from Morocco. Immigration to Israel was banned in 1959, but before that, 274,000 Moroccan Jews immigrated primarily to Israel. Yemen and Aden.
Remember when you said you weren't a Zionist?
50,000.
Remember when you said you weren't a Zionist? These are direct Zionist talking points.
This is historical facts, literally spread by your very own Avi Schleim, who, if I'm quoting back to you, said we didn't leave because we were Zionists. We did not leave because we were Zionists. We left because we were afraid.
Ethan, that's the difference. If you ask Avi Schleim whether it is comparable to say the Nakba and the 900,000 Jews that...
Who said?
left
I'm not defending
from
the Nakba.
separate countries, he would laugh at you.
Your
You don't
failure
understand.
to acknowledge the trauma of both groups is the reason why you are a radical fucking propagandist liar. Both trauma needs to be acknowledged by both groups. There's two things that need to be true for this ever to be resolved peacefully.
You're right. I'm sorry.
Palestinian
Israel should keep
self-determination
doing a
and the
genocide.
Israelis' right to have secure borders.
Zionism was a-
As long as you ignore that,
You're
there will
right.
always be war. Palestinians will always die, and you will continue to make money from it. Operation Magic Carpet. Jews were secretly airlifted to Israel due to rising hostility.
It's so interesting because
50,000 were relocated to
the PLO
Tunisia.
did recognize that
130,000
Jewish
after.
The PLO did recognize that, and they wanted those countries to actually do a right to return for all Jews. Why did Israel stop that from happening, Ethan? Don't you think that Zionism is a problem here?
Avi Schleim
what
said,
happened?
quote,
They didn't fucking send you that clip? They didn't send you that
Avi
piece of
Schleim-
information? So the PLO,
Avi
Yasser
Schleim-
Arafat, the people that don't care about Jewish plight, actually did see
who
wrongdoing
oversaw the
that happened to
Second
Jews,
Intifada?
and
What the
wanted
fuck are you
Jews
on
to go
about?
back and do a right to return if they wanted to do so into their nation of origin. As a matter
I'm
of
talking
fact,
about the
and yet
flights,
Israel was the
bro.
one who didn't
You
want that
deny
to
the
happen.
flight
Why
of
is that
Middle Eastern
big, Ethan?
Jews. No, you deny the flight. You deny the trauma of
I don't
Middle Eastern
deny
Jews.
flight, Ethan.
You
You don't
absolutely
understand.
deny the
You are
trauma.
attributing-
No, you
you are
deny
making
that
a
they left.
comparison
You tried to
between-
say that they left by choice. That is a gross
No,
historical
there are Jews that left by
inaccuracy.
choice. That is
Yes,
true.
some did.
There are
Of the
Jews that actually
900,000, the
left by
vast majority
choice.
left because they were afraid.
Ethan,
Because they were being
there are-
discriminated against.
You know, just from the debate, I would say, yeah, the cards make sense, of course. It started off with them kind of being even. Reverse Page of Swords for Ethan and reverse Knight of Pentacles for Hasan, which to me is kind of like an even thing. They're both kind of like on tricky territory here. What I would say is Hasan is... The tricky territory is him not really acknowledging the Jewish struggle. And Ethan's tricky territory is him possibly not really... Maybe he's holding on to this conversation a little bit too much. Maybe he's being a little bit outside of what the real conversation should be, but considering he's arguing with Hasan, you know, it kind of makes sense that he's going down this route. And that's why we come out with a Knight of Swords and then a Three of Swords. Knight of Swords for Ethan, Three of Swords for Hasan, and I think it just keeps coming back down to like the fact that Hasan being unable to acknowledge Jewish struggle is not good for him. It's not good for his argument. It's not good for where he wants this debate to go. It doesn't matter whether Ethan is going to come out as correct over everything or not. But you could even hear it near the end where Hasan keeps doubling down on this idea that Jewish people left on their own whim instead of being expelled or anything. Even if that is true that there are some who did it, I think Hasan needs to change his tone in order to really get his point across to Ethan. Because right now, Hasan is just seemingly combating what Ethan is saying is fact. And Hasan is like very wishy-washy on acknowledging whether this is fact or not. So let's see where this keeps going. It's going into the next segment. These segments are kind of short here, so I don't know. Sometimes, you know, like I said, I drew one card for each of them, and that seemed to match perfectly with what I wanted to say about the particular debate thing. So, you know, we'll just see where this goes.
That is a historical fact.
Have you
60
ever
were
actually
aftermath.
listened to a clip of me talking about this?
What?
Oh my God, you have no idea what my perspective on this is. You're just fucking
Of course,
yelling at nothing.
well, what are you doing right now?
Oh
What are you
my
wasting time
God.
for, buddy?
This is the reason why you're repeating.
No, I
shit
have
that
heard you
not
talk about it
fucking
time and time
that you
again.
actually believe.
Bro, you are continually, okay, not
Oh my
acknowledging
God.
the trauma of Middle Eastern
Oh my
Jews.
God.
You characterize it like they
Have you
left.
ever listened-
Yes,
have you
I've
ever
seen
listened to
it.
anything that's not 30 seconds long
Yes, bro.
from me?
That's
Have
so
you?
ironic that you're saying that as
I'm
you
literally
misquote Avi
telling you
Schleim, who said he
right now,
fled because he was afraid, and not because of Zion. Here's the clip.
Here's the clip. He's trying to get gotcha here. So you can fucking
Here's the
find
clip.
But everyone's still going to think you're a fucking loser, dude. I'm
Here's the
sorry.
clip.
Just shut up and listen if you want to actually hear my
Here's the clip.
perspective.
I'm shutting up and listening to you.
Okay, thank you.
For the Iraqi Jews. Because when anti-Semitism increases in the West, Israel sees that as a complementary tool
not
to
the
its
fucking
Zionist
clip I'm
project,
talking
the
about, by
Zionist
the way.
mission of bringing either all Jews to Israel, or at least make Jews in the Western world that are outside of Israel, Jews in diaspora, support Israel. Because it gives additional credence to the argument. It gives additional credence to the argument that no Jew is ever safe if there is no Jewish state. That is the underpinning of the Zionist project in general.
Why did you not mention the anti-Semitism? You exclusively talk about Zionism being the reason for forcing them out. Why do you deny that they were expelled by force, the vast majority of them?
Ethan, if you think that that is the entirety of my perspective on this matter,
Illuminate me.
You please need to stop talking and listen to the amount of times that I've talked
Explain.
about this. Okay,
Bro, just explain yourself.
I'm trying, but you keep.
I just watched a clip
interjecting.
of you being pretty dismissive about the flight. And by the way, you've done it this whole time. You say that
No,
Zionism
I'm
was the
dismissive
main
about the
force.
aspect that this is beneficial to the Zionist project across the board because Israel wants all Jews to be constantly fucking terrified in any other country that's not Israel so that they can actually go and either support Israel if they're not in Israel or just move to Israel. That is the entire point. That is what Jabotinsky wanted, that is what Herzl wanted, and that is precisely what Benjamin Netanyahu wants as well. So in terms of my explanation, or what I come across as dismissive, is precisely the role that Israel itself played in this process.
Which was
It a mutually
minuscule.
beneficial relationship that
Minuscule.
anti-Semitic pogroms did take
Minuscule.
place.
What you fail to acknowledge is that the Jews were forced to become Zionists, not by choice, but by necessity.
Oh my
because the
God.
Arab countries turned on them after the war and
Yes,
forced them to go to the only state
which is
that they could go
necessity
to.
for Israel to exist, which is what your
What?
position is, right?
No, it's not about what was allowed or not. The Arabs created a million Zionists because they're anti-Semitic after the war of 1948 and fucking the rise of Arab nationalism. Do you deny that?
You brought up Morocco.
You deny what I just said.
Wait, say it again. I
Do
wasn't
you
listening.
deny what I just said?
Wait, say it again. I wasn't listening.
900,000 Jews, approximately 700 to 900,000, were forced to become Zionists, not by choice, but because they were forced out. The vast majority went to the fucking Arabs. The anti-Semitic Arabs.
There you go.
What? Yeah, there you go. What? That's my point. Are you okay?
Case.
Okay, well, I mean,
no, you're too fucking delusional to realize what kind of racist nonsense you're fucking.
That's unbelievable, bro.
Point.
It's historic. I mean, it's historical. You don't know anything about what you're talking about. Avi Schleim, once again, because you don't want to contend, you like to accuse him when it's convenient. He left not because they were Zionists. They left because they were afraid.
Arabs. What was Avi Schleim, by the way?
Yeah, he was an Arab Jew. They didn't see him that way. They kicked his ass out. I'm not saying fucking Arabs. There's a reason for it. There was a rise in Arab nationalism following the 1948 war. They blamed their own Jewish populace for what Israel did. That's anti-Semitism. They have nothing to do. Do you think the Iraqi Jews left their 2,000-year-old communities, left their businesses, left their houses because they wanted to go to Israel? Are you fucking mad?
Remember a while back I tweeted and you got really mad when I said that there's a double standard between Israel.
All right, interesting. I'll say, like, okay, so reverse high priestess for Ethan, 5 of swords for Hasan. And then I had a little card sticking out as I was shuffling, and I was just like, fuck it, that'll be a middle card. And it is 6 of cups. You got the little girl going home. So look at the home as Israel and the little girl as Jewish people. I guess that's how you could look at 6. I mean, that's kind of what this conversation's about. So that kind of makes sense that 6 of cups showed up for the middle. 5 of swords versus, you could see it, like, in the way Hasan does his little, like, smiles, his smirks, the, oh my god, you know, he was doing, like, a thing where it kind of sounded fake as fuck, where he's just like, oh my god, you totally don't. And, you know, I'm not trying to be biased here. It's just so obvious when you see how someone's acting. Hasan is just not a good actor. And that's what the 5 is. To me, it's all about, like, he's acting as if he's in the right. He's acting as if Ethan just said something so horrible. But it's in a way that really, like, not a lot of people are going to buy. And if Hasan is being 100% genuine when he acts this way, then he needs to really figure out what he looks like when he does this, right? But all the smirks and stuff, to me, that is that's something that people do when they're losing or they're being, like, bombarded by a crazy person. But we're having just like a debate here and you start smirking a lot, it's not a good look.
Islamophobia and
There's absolutely a double standard, and you exhibit it.
You're participating in it right now without even recognizing
it's
that you're
historical.
doing so.
I mean, I'm just telling you literally what happened.
Historical racism. All Arabs are not
They were
responsible.
racist. Do people never get racist? Do people never be? I'm explaining why. I'm not blaming anyone. I'm just explaining why. After the 1948 war, the rise of Arab nationalism created a lot of anti-Semitism, and that's why the vast majority of the Jews, the 900,000 of them, were forced to immigrate. That's a fact. That's a historical fact.
Ethan, I'm sorry to say this, and I don't know if your audience gets this as well, but what you just said earlier is not an accurate reflection of history. It's just pure racism.
How do you know that?
You are shifting the blame over to the entire Arabs.
Absolutely was the blame of the
Every
Arabs.
single one of these Arab countries with
Absolutely.
their own version of pan-Arabic nationalism, half of them are already still controlled, by the way, by fucking European colonial powers like Vichy France.
That was literally just in Tunisia.
Expulsion program, and you're using that as a similarity between the planned expulsion of 750,000 Palestinians.
I mean, the details are different, but you're denying. Like, once again,
it's like,
you're still not disproving me. What did I say?
It's like pointing to anti-German racism.
Don't make an analogy. Tell me why I'm wrong.
Anti-German racism.
I don't need an analogy. I need facts from you. Why am I wrong?
It's as though you are pointing to anti-German racism happening during the fucking German conquest.
Tell me a fact, right? That proves that I'm wrong. That the vast majority of Jews fled because of anti-Semitism in the Arab states.
It's not what you're saying.
So I didn't say anything wrong.
It's the comparison. It's the comparison. It's the idea that all Arabs are fucking one-minded and have something to do with Palestinians in general. Yes, I never said that there wasn't any fucking anti-Jewish sentiment. That also.
Were the vast majority of Jews, did they leave because of anti-Semitism or Zionism?
The vast majority of Jews, regardless of whether or not they left for anti-Semitism or Zionist purposes, is not comparable to the Nakba.
You're not answering.
It is not comparable to the Nakba.
I don't care. That's got nothing to do with what I'm talking about. I'm not comparing that.
You made that comparison to make it seem as though it was a much larger crime.
Because people like you ignore the trauma of the fact that you want to tell the people in Israel to go back to where they came from. This is where they're from. They were forced to go to Israel.
They could right now. They could go tomorrow.
Really? The Iraqi Jews can go back to their home tomorrow. The Egyptian Jews can go back to their homes tomorrow.
Absolutely.
That is insane. You're fucking out of your mind. Okay, how? Tell me how. How did the Jews go back to their...
I understand why they wouldn't want to, because America fucking...
No, they want to. But why would the... How?
What do you mean,
how would they go back and reclaim their lost assets, their lost property?
There were literally different schemes designed at this...
And by the way, how did they become citizens?
At different points throughout this 76-year-long, drawn-out apartheid structure, there were numerous instances where, yes, there was a right to return offered to Jews and even restitution for the homes that they lost in the process. So, yes, you're wrong. You simply don't know the facts. You are wrong.
You won't say what fact I'm getting wrong.
I just told you.
Did the vast majority of Jews immigrate to Israel following 1948 because of Zionism or because of anti-Semitism?
No, don't run away from this point.
Answer the fucking question.
I don't discount anti-Semitism as a response to the Arab nationalism that took place in numerous countries. I have issues with your comparison. Okay?
Who's comparing? You keep saying that. I'm not talking about the
You
Nakba.
brought that
I'm
up
talking about your
deliberately in
unwillingness to
context
recognize
new.
Jewish play.
You brought
And
that up
a really
deliberately
important-
to say more Jews were displaced than Palestinians were.
I think that's an interesting fact that you clearly don't fucking ever want to mention
Why would
because
you
it
bring
really
up that
messes
fact?
up your beautiful little narrative.
So why did you bring that fact up right after you talked about the 1948 war?
Because the point is
You
that
made
two
that
people were
comparison. That
traumatized.
comparison is
There was
disgusting.
two people that were traumatized. There was two people that were displaced unfairly. It was the Palestinians and it was the Middle Eastern Jews. They both have trauma. You failed to acknowledge one group. You shit on the other one. I, unlike you, acknowledge both groups. I acknowledge both groups. You acknowledge one. What?
That's what you're doing. And you're also attributing.
How? How am I doing that?
You're attributing anti-Semitic violence in different countries to.
At the same time, following 1948, pan-Arab nationalism. You said that yourself.
Yes.
These 5 Arab countries were defeated in 1948, and they turned super fucking anti-Semitic as a result. They became ultra-nationalist Arabs. They became popular. As Israel declared independence, they said, "Fuck no, we don't want this country here." And yeah, they all became anti-Semitic. That's a historical
You
fact.
also
that you
fail to
deny.
recognize that the Iraqi Jews have been allowed to return to Iraq, and there have been numerous instances where Jews were given an opportunity to
How
return
many
if they
Jews live in
wanted
Iraq?
to, but you don't
How many
want
Jews
to.
live in Iraq?
What?
How
I don't
many
know, I think
Jewish
zero right
people?
now, but they can. The
How
point
many
is they
Jews
can.
live in the Middle East outside of Israel?
Why do Iraqi
Virtually
Jews
none.
Why
Where'd
do
they
Iraqi
go?
Jews
If
not
it was so
want to go?
fucking
Why do
great
Iraqi
for
Jews
them.
not want to go to Iraq, you think, right now?
0 Jews, almost virtually 0 Jews live outside of Israel in the Middle East. Why is that? You don't think that none of them wanted to fucking stay at home?
I don't know. Maybe
none
because
of them.
maybe because there was a religious ethno-supremacist state that was backed by a
there
lot
you
of
go.
Western states as a
That's the
direct
insane
destabilizer in the fucking
fucking
region
sweeping that you're
with mass
discrediting.
migration happening, especially, of course, mass migration happening, and then in the aftermath of the Holocaust with a shit ton more refugees coming in was a much more viable state for them.
Here's the
The
problem.
viability of said state, of course, is partially a consequence of the other
You want to
countries
blame-
and the
you want
hostility
to
that
blame
people felt
Zionists.
towards Jewish
You don't
people.
want to blame
But
the Arabs,
This in and
okay?
of itself,
It's just a
is
fact.
the heart of the problem because people conflate Zionism with Judaism, and you do that.
That's
all
what the
time.
Arabs did when they kicked them all out.
I know, and I don't think it's appropriate. That's
And so
my
why are you
point.
blaming the Zionists and not the fucking Arabs for being racist? Why do you
doing
deny
it
the
to
Jewish
fucking
trauma?
Arabs.
Why do you deny the 900,000 traumatized Jews that were forced, including, by the way, what you keep ignoring, Avi Schleim. Avi Schleim said we didn't leave Iraq because we were Zionists. We left because we were afraid. Are you hearing that?
Ethan, do you blame the English for the Holocaust?
No.
Who did the Holocaust, Ethan?
Just fucking make your point. I'm not playing this.
Come on, who
silly
did the
game.
Holocaust? Just say it.
Make your point, dude. I'm not a fucking.
Why not? I'm asking you a question. It's a super simple question.
Avi Schleim said we left Iraq
I asked
because.
you who was responsible for the Holocaust.
Why would
Which
I answer
nation?
such a stupid rhetorical question? Just make your point.
Wait, you know the answer to this, right? Like, come on, what are you looking at on your fucking computer? Like, which country is responsible for the Holocaust?
Anytime you want to make your point. I would appreciate.
Wait, what is
if you
happening,
don't-
dude? When you already okay, here, whatever. You said already.
I would appreciate.
that
If you,
This is interesting. Why is he just asking this? All right, you know what? Before I analyze these cards, I do want to see where this is going.
just
already
listen
said,
to
you
one
already
thing I
said that
said.
it wasn't the English, right? It's not the responsibility of the British that the Holocaust happened, right? You understand that? You recognize that, right?
well, I would say the nation most directly guilty for the Holocaust was probably Nazi Germany.
Okay. Did you just read that from your laptop?
Oh, I'm eloquent. I'm like your
I mean,
dumbass.
yes, it is. Okay. Notice how you don't actually
I'm
put
fabulous,
every
bitch.
single fucking country. There was plenty of anti-Semitism in England too. Notice how you don't fucking say all of Europe is responsible for the
was there
Holocaust.
concentration
But you
camps
say
in the
all
UK?
Arabs.
Okay.
The point is,
there's no
anti-Semitic-
Jews in the Middle East.
anti-Semitic-
None. Can you listen to one thing? I have one thing important to say that I really want you just to listen to. Okay. Avi Schleim said they did not leave Iraq because they were Zionists. They left because they were afraid.
Yes.
You are denying his family's trauma.
Oh
You
my
are blaming
God.
his family's
Okay,
trauma
will you
on
talk to him?
Zionists.
Will you talk to
and
him
not-
about this?
Sure. I mean,
If you're so
I read it from his fucking book.
if you're so confident in all this, okay, that would be great. All right, perfect. Okay.
So listen.
No, you should.
I'll
You should-
debate all these people instead of you. I have time. Unfortunately, like I said, it's getting late, so I just want to make one last point before we go, which is that always remember.
We ended with the Emperor, which I drew for both of them. These guys are now kind of just trying to strong arm each other in the debate. It's not really, I mean, kind of like Ethan saying we don't have much time. There's only 30 minutes of this debate left. I think they're both just tired of this conversation. They both want to dominate what is being said. You know, they both want to just be the bigger dick. For a while, I would say, like, Ethan drawing the strength card, Hasan drawing the Ace of Wands, and it's on top of a reverse Five of Swords. Strength card on top of a reverse Knight of Wands. It seemed, at least until I drew that Emperor card, what we had... And it would make sense that the Emperor card would come, because for Hasan's arc here, we have a reverse Five of Swords to an Ace of Wands, which is just like, hey, dude, you're really doing badly here. Time for a new strategy. Time to fucking move. Time to move forward here and approach this from a different angle. Meanwhile, Ethan, while he's not necessarily making the best argument ever, and he's not necessarily arguing in the best of faith, he's still got the upper hand. He's still just like, luckily for him, he's debating Hasan. I think that's the way to look at it. You know, a lot of the, you know, there was things that Hasan said that I wanted to comment on earlier where he's just saying, like, you look like it. Like, Hasan constantly is worried about what Ethan looks like to his own audience. Because Hasan is aware of what his audience would think of Ethan saying this or that. So that's why he says, you sound like an idiot, you look like an idiot. It's because Hasan, remember what it all comes down to, like in the first couple videos I did. Hasan is mostly concerned about how he looks, and Ethan is not. That's a big difference, and for Hasan, that is a major anchor. It's a dead weight on his soul to care about what other people think. Now, you should care about what other people think as a social creature. You know, if you don't bathe and you don't groom, you know, a lot of people are going to think you're gross, and if you're okay with that, then whatever. But if you want people to like you, then you should bathe and you should shave, right? You know, there's a certain extent to how much you should care about how you look. If you are like horribly concerned, like extremely concerned with how people think you look, you're going to constantly put that above everything else. You can't have a good faith conversation with someone if your main argument against them, or one of the big arguments you're going to have against them, is that they look bad. Oh, dude, this makes you look bad. Well, maybe it makes them look bad, and that way, that's good for you. You should be happy that someone is saying something that makes them look bad, because you're arguing with them. You're trying to prove them wrong. But it seems that in some way, and this comes also back to some of the things that I was saying also in the earlier videos, Hasan does want Ethan to like him at the end of the day. He wants there to be, and it's subconscious, but he wants Ethan to somehow like him, to somehow respect him. I think that would be like the right term. And Ethan right now does not respect him at all. Right now, Ethan kind of looks at him like he's a fool. I don't think that's ever going to change at this point. I think Hasan has really kind of nailed that in. I think Ethan just views Hasan as dumb, and that's not going to change. Now, whether Hasan views Ethan as dumb or not, Ethan doesn't care. I think Ethan cares that maybe certain people out there think he's dumb. But I don't think Ethan really cares that much about whether Hasan thinks he's dumb or not. And that is kind of what gives Ethan the upper hand here. Whether this is like all subconsciously controlling Hasan to his detriment, which in my viewpoint, that is what's going on. But that is kind of like, you know, that's all up for, you know, life experience and to figure out, oh, maybe this is just everything that's going on with Hasan's flaws, is that he's just so concerned about what others think of him that he ends up doing a lot of things that makes him look worse. But he has his cohort. He has his niche audience. And to him, those are the people whose viewpoints matter. And more importantly is that I think he views those viewpoints as like above all. Like they are kind of the dominant way of thinking, at least in the world that matters to him. But all right, let's keep going.
Remember, Hasan, that when people criticize me, I watch it on my stream by myself live, unlike a bitch-made coward like yourself, who needs someone to hold your hand and make all the excuses in the world to avoid any single criticism, any response. You, my friend, are a coward, and I am the fucking legend that responded to it live with zero hesitation. But you know why? Because I'm not a liar. I don't have to think about the shit that I say and justify it. You lied. That's why you can't do it, because you'll get caught in those lies.
I endeavor made you look good. Then congratulations. Okay.
You don't think it was good that you don't think that it was a supreme confidence that I responded to it immediately live?
Ethan, it took you 4 months to actually entertain the notion of having a conversation with
me.
me.
Anytime you want,
videos. I don't know why you think that I'm afraid of watching.
You watch 11 hate videos on your channel. 11 hate videos. I've watched zero about you, Hasan. Do you want to actually discuss who's the coward?
Videos, dumbass! Your fucking community is the hate community. Why the fuck would you have to watch hate videos or whatever? You are the one who's doing it.
Just remember, when criticism comes, I confront
thank you for backtracking on
criticism comes to you.
Maybe we should go through context puke one more time so we can continue.
If you want to watch
this conversation later, okay?
If you want,
I'll hold your hand to all the other dumb shit that you said in it. It's not because I'm afraid. It's because you were crying because you.
No, it is definitely because you're afraid. Why is it you didn't? Why is it you love Banana, but when he makes a video criticizing you, you say I'm not watching that?
Because I think it's. You want to know why? Because I think it's fucking unproductive to literally
watch criticism of me. You fucking coward.
Yeah, because you're fucking presenting yourself and developing an audience that is literally, without even realizing it, because they are only drama obsessed. Without realizing it, they're literally positioning themselves to be pro-Israel, to repeat pro-Israel talking points. Yes, that is the only reason why I started talking about you. Because you went on a fucking deplatforming campaign.
Why did you not watch Banana's video about you? You watched all of it.
You did 110 Instagram stories on me, Ethan. Since January 31st, 2025.
You're changing the.
It was so
24
unhinged that
hours.
you
Bro,
didn't even
it's-
recognize who you have
You need to
become.
at least admit that it's reciprocal. I am not. You make 24 hours of nonstop content,
Ethan,
bro.
you
24
literally have
hours.
posted-
I mean, this is pretty cool, right? King of Swords versus Ten of Swords. They're close to each other, but they're not close otherwise. I mean, the Ten of Swords is not a good outlook for Hasan. And you can see it here. It does. I mean, I guess if you were a fan of Hasan, this whole thing may seem like Hasan is winning. I don't know. But I'm not really like a fan of either of these guys. I guess in some way, Ethan, I at least like his really old content, you know, before the podcast. I like some of that stuff. But ever since, you know, I never liked his podcast. I never liked that he had Chris D'Elia on all the time. And this is before Chris D'Elia got canceled. I just found Chris D'Elia so not funny as a person. Like, nothing he ever says or does is funny. He looks kind of weird, but not in a funny way. He's just like one of those comedians where you're like, how is he famous? What is going on with the world of stand-up comedy that Chris D'Elia is famous and like one of the most famous stand-up comics? That made zero sense to me. And he was showing up on the podcast. I'm trying to say that I'm not like being biased here. Maybe my subconscious is drawing these cards and it's saying, oh, Hasan's losing, and it's just confirming my bias. I don't know. To me, it just seems to say, no, Hasan, you're fucking digging your own grave here, dude. You're a guy with a bunch of fucking swords in your goddamn stomach on a beach. And Ethan is just like this rich, ugly moron who is just beating the shit out of you right now. So
In the last 2 months,
on your own personal Instagram
we've talked about
stories
each other equally
since
as much, bro.
January 31st, 2025, 110 stories. It was so insane. You didn't believe it. You don't even believe your own media.
Hasan,
Please,
Hasan,
for the love of God.
Hasan, you talked about me 24 minutes a day, every day, 7 days a week for 60 days.
Yes,
Does that
after
sound
you,
fucking
after
reasonable?
you presented yourself as a fucking significant force trying to literally deplatform pro-Palestinian voices.
How much time do you think it makes an Instagram story?
That's why. And that's you literally, your own.
Why didn't you watch a Bad Episode video
Your
about
own
yourself?
producers were begging you to stop talking about me, so much so that you had to set up a separate war room where you only talked about me.
What?
And that's what happened, right? Because you couldn't shut
It's
about
not
your
a separate
fans
war
were
room.
fucking going, Ethan, we get it, he sucks.
My fans
Please
are
stop talking
fine, bro.
about it.
Don't worry
And
about my fans.
The entire time you framed this as though it's petty fucking drama.
It's
As
not
though
petty drama. You are deeply
even though it was a
anti-Semitic,
real
hateful, fucking
issue that took
propagandist
place. And it only took you now to fucking openly say 10 toes down that it is a genocide, but also you don't want anyone to fucking
I've
resist
said that
against it.
consistently for years, liar.
Ethan, you don't want anyone to resist against genocide. It is a fucking untenable position.
Oh, you
It
mean
makes no
kidnapping civilians?
sense.
You're so pathetic, bro.
And you
Please.
constantly keep smearing me as a fucking anti-Semite at a time
You're
when the
proving
Trump
that
administration, at a time when the Trump administration is blackbacking people. How
Yeah,
do you
that's
not
bad happening.
understand
Don't call me out.
How do you
That's
not
bad happening. Don't
understand?
call me out. That's what you're doing.
Dude, how do you not understand?
Why didn't you watch the Bad Episode
that
video?
You are playing a formative role when you don't talk about Mahmoud Khalil. You're
Just
playing a
remember,
formative
everybody
role
watching.
when you don't talk about the mass starvation of Gazans.
By the way,
You
I
are not-
advocated for Kamala to get elected. What'd you do? I told people to vote for Kamala. What'd you do? No, seriously.
Oh,
What'd you do?
congratulations.
Do you think Kamala and Trump would have been equally
I won't
bad?
change anything from Joe Biden's policies, Harris.
It's not Joe Biden, it's
Well,
Kamala
not only did I
Harris.
go to the DNC, but I actually
It's
offered
not-
some pretty fucking valuable criticism to the
They
Democratic
got
Party
kicked
they didn't
out, by
listen
the
to, unfortunately.
Didn't they kick you out of the
Because
DNC?
valuable criticism, they lost. Why have you lied about me voting for Jill Stein, by the way? Can we talk about that?
Who
Why
do you-
the fuck
I don't know.
did you
Who
saying I voted for Jill Stein? I have
Who do you vote
countless
for?
hours shitting on Jill Stein. I've told people
I
not
think
to
you
vote for
did.
Trump. I've said that
I
Donald
said-
Trump is significantly worse than Kamala Harris. And I've also, on top of that, called Jill Stein a grifter
That you
over
didn't
and over
endorse
and
her.
over again. But for some weird reason, despite the fact that I voted live, mind you, you kept
And you
lying
didn't
to your
say who
audience.
for.
And you kept lying to your audience. And you
I
kept
said I
making it
think.
seem as though I didn't even fucking vote or urge people not to vote. There's never been a moment
Who'd
where
you
I
vote
said do
for?
not vote.
Who did you vote for?
I voted for Kamala Harris. You got a problem?
No, I got no problem, but I think
Oh,
there's
you
people in
don't
your
have a
audience that
problem.
would.
You don't have a problem with that.
Why didn't you endorse her then?
Saying I voted for Jill Stein, huh?
I said I think because you didn't
Oh,
say who you voted for.
Oh, you think?
Yeah, that's what I said.
Oh,
It's
you
an opinion.
think? Oh, you don't give a fuck, dude. It doesn't matter who I vote for anyway. You're out of your fucking mind. I did not endorse Kamala Harris,
Why did-
and I will never endorse Kamala Harris,
But you
and I
voted
did
for
not
her.
endorse Joe Biden.
And now
Because
Trump's
you wanna know
president.
why? Because you want to know why?
Trump's
Because
building the
it's fucking
Riviera in
embarrassing
Gaza Strip,
that
and guess
they
what?
did.
You're fucking love that shit because you get to keep making content about it, and you get to keep making videos, and you guarantee there will never be peace there.
Yeah.
And
As opposed to you.
trauma of both
As
sides.
opposed to
Two
you,
things must
Ethan.
always
How
be
much
true,
content have you
Hasan.
made about Donald Trump? How much content have you made about fucking Donald Trump? You literally defended his terrorist regime. What the fuck are you talking about? And then you had to apologize
bro.
because you're an
The thing
embarrassing
is, you
figure.
can't- you
Okay,
can't fathom.
listen to me. Listen to me. It is
can't fathom
embarrassing that
somebody
you are
says
trying to make a
something
foray
wrong
into
on
politics,
politics and
and
corrects it.
all of the producers or all the people that are giving you fucking talking points is not going to make you come
defended
across as
terrorists.
smart in this process. Please, for your own mental sanity, stop trying to do this. You are basically brain breaking a shit ton of people into idiotic positions. You clearly don't care about people who have actually voted for Donald Trump, considering your allegiance with people who have literally directly voted for Donald Trump.
Who's my
Okay?
allegiance? Who's my allegiance?
What do you mean? You have fucking Trump supporters that you're friends with, like Steiny in general. When I have a conversation with him, I'm actually directly fucking addressing some of the shit that he's saying, like the Nelk boys and whatnot.
Our entire conversation was me arguing with him and telling him why Trump's bad and why Trump's is bad. You
Yeah.
are.
You're going
insanely
out,
competent.
you're playing poker with people who fucking voted for Donald Trump.
You were
You're
just on
defending
Nelson- you were
Asmongold,
just on
and saying
Steiny's podcast,
Asmongold
you
is not
forgot.
actually Trump coded. Okay?
I spent
You're doing
hours
all this
shitting on
because they
Steiny.
don't.
You're just a
Asmongold
liar.
has been a valuable figure shitting on me this entire time, and that's the only reason why you act like he's not that significant of a force. That's it.
When did I say
You will
that?
take help from anyone and everyone,
And
no
right,
matter what their
and it's
background
always my
is.
destiny,
You claim
right?
to care. You claim to care about rape, and you're hyping up a dude who has a segment on a show called Ultimate Rape Review. The reason why you're hyping up that dude is
Rape
because
Review?
you don't give a fuck.
What are you
All you care about is
talking
petty drama. This is your only content. Stop doing petty drama content. Shut the fuck up about politics and get back to goofs and gaffs, and it will be fine. People will forget that you have behaved in this way, but you don't want to do that. It's become a fucking personal agenda for you, that people don't like you. It must be anti-Semitism. No, they don't like you because you don't know what the fuck you're talking about, and you have to be babied by goddamn producers as a 40-year-old adult. That's the reason why people don't like it. That's it.
Very good. Very good. Now, why don't you watch Rand Fernandez videos about you?
Because he's pro-Palestine, and I don't give a fuck about... Because
he was criticizing you.
And I don't
you're
care
such a
about
coward,
the
Hasan.
differences
It's
that we
unbelievable.
have.
All right, very good. I'm out of my depth. I shouldn't talk about
And if you were pro-Palestine, I would never talk about you either. That's the real reason.
Uh-oh. Can you please contend with the Avi Schleim quote that they left not because of Zionism, but because they were afraid?
Dude, come on. Enough. You have Avi Schleim on the show. Talk to him about it, okay? Maybe it'll go down exactly like you thought with Sam Cedar.
How did it go with Sam Cedar? I think if anything, Sam kind of embarrassed himself. I genuinely do. I hate to say it because I like Sam.
4-year-old man
but like
he button when he has like a little oops moment. Is actually the one who's talking about Sam Cedar embarrassing himself.
Okay, you know, before it gets into the Sam Cedar thing, which is interesting because maybe this moon card had a little bit to do with that. We got a reverse 2 of cups for Ethan, and then a moon card. We got a reverse 6 of wands for Hasan, and then a page of cups. And for the middle, it's another card that fell out while I was shuffling. I was just like, you know what? Let's put that in the middle. And it was a reverse magician. I'm actually glad that I am watching. I was kind of like, oh, I just don't want to watch the rest of this video. It's just a little... I personally prefer good debates in general. I like a good debate. This is not a debate. This is 2 men with a lot of emotional issues with each other, hashing it out. Really, that's what it is. This is the end of a friendship. I mean, a conclusion that I came up with probably in one of the first couple videos. This is not a real debate. I've been saying it over and over since the very beginning. This is not a real debate. This is just 2 guys who hate each other and they used to love each other. It's 2 gay men breaking up. That's what it is. Not that they're actually gay. And if they were gay, there would be nothing wrong with that. I want everyone to know homophobia is wrong. And if you are a homophobe, hopefully change your ways. And if you don't, hopefully something happens that is able to restrict your ability to cause harm. Anyways, reverse magician, I would say, because this whole debate is now them just trying to alakazam their way out of the bullshit that they're both spewing. Which, keep in mind, you know, I know I was saying, you know, Ethan's doing well, but it's only because he's debating Hasan. Otherwise, this is all just a fucking magic trick that you're watching here. Like, all the points that these folks are making is mostly just trying to one-up each other in a way that is completely disingenuous in the grand scheme of things. I think this moon card, now coming into the Sam Cedar thing, and the page of cups, I would say maybe with the Sam Cedar thing, I don't know if they're really going to go into that. Ethan's perspective is kind of coming to light. I mean, to me, it's kind of like, yes, as good as he was doing against Hasan, at the end of the day, he's still a bit diluted. And it's not to say that I watched the Sam Cedar debate. I'm a fan of Sam Cedar. I kind of feel like Sam Cedar didn't do a good job. I think he was a little too emotionally invested in protecting Hasan, and he didn't understand that Hasan is what he is, right? Imagine you're defending Hasan and you don't know much about him. You probably will look like an idiot, because Hasan is someone that if you're going to go and defend, you should probably know a lot more about what's going on in his world and what the types of things that he says. I think Ethan didn't really do a good job at telling Sam Cedar what Hasan is like. He showed him one clip, and Sam Cedar decided to base everything he knows about Hasan on that one clip. And even though Sam Cedar shouldn't have done that, it was Ethan's fault, right? Ethan should have made a better case for why you should hate Hasan. So that was on Ethan. The reverse 6 of wands, I remember it was very good for what but now I do not remember at all what the fuck was going on. Hopefully you folks at home can decide why I was laughing. But it really seemed to work perfectly for what was going. So yeah, I don't even know if my laugh came up on the microphone, but I was actually laughing pretty hard at something that was going on, and it was because of the 6 of wands alongside the rhetoric that was being spewed. But keep in mind, both of these guys are kind of just going off now. I'm not quite sure if they're going to actually have a real debate. So we might be getting more cards that have to do with their personalities and their emotions, and probably less like, oh, this guy made a good point. Oh, this is a good strategy. I don't think we're going to get much of that left, but who knows? Maybe this one looks kind of long. Nelson Mandela was a Zionist. So maybe when that comes up, maybe that'll be a real debate topic. I don't know.
Did I button during that debate?
Himself to talk to you man to man and try to.
Which that's what you wanted. That's what you asked for. Why would you want to lower his status? Why did you lower his status?
Convinced. I didn't realize you were this fucking drama obsessed. You thought
drama obsessed. We had an argument about fucking South Africa apartheid. What's drama about that?
What?
You're fucking dude. Listen,
enjoy.
It doesn't matter. Just remember. When it comes to criticism, I watch it. You ignore it. It's so important.
Actually peaceful because you're gonna clip chimp the fucking shit that Loner Box told you. And then
why was it what?
The violent things that the ANC did were in the Truth and Reconciliation Committee attributed to.
Hasan, how many civilians died in 20 years in the ANC during the ANC's?
It was like 200, I think, or
less than 100. How many people did Hamas kill on one day? Nelson Mandela, which I'll read you a quote from his trial.
Are you comparing the apartheid structure in South Africa to 76 years of colonial occupation?
Don't you do that all the time?
No, the numbers.
You call it apartheid all the time.
The militancy has gotten far more radical as a direct consequence of Israel becoming far more radical. Because, as I told you, and you seemingly understood when we first had this conversation after October 7, that the maintenance of an apartheid is an inherently violent endeavor. And as a matter of fact, the resistance to said apartheid is only going to get worse and worse as time moves on. This is precisely the reason why the first intifada was fought with stones, little children throwing rocks, and the second intifada, in the aftermath of horrific acts of terror against Palestinians who were at a mosque praying, the second intifada, as a matter of fact, was fought with bombs.
I'm not just grandstanding. Mandela, from his trial in 1960, said, and I quote, there were 4 forms of violence that were possible. One was sabotage, one was guerrilla warfare, one was terrorism, and then there was open revolution. We chose to adopt the first method as it exhausted it before taking any other decision. In light of our political background, the choice was a logical one. Sabotage did not involve loss of life, and it offered the best hope for future race relations. Bitterness would be kept minimum, and if a policy bore fruit, democratic government could become a reality. This is what we felt at the time, and this is what we said in our manifesto. We have always sought to achieve liberation without bloodshed and civil clash. We hope, even at this late hour, that our first actions will awaken everyone to the realization that the disastrous situation which the nationalist policy is leading. We hope that we will bring the government and its supporters to their senses before it's too late, so that both the government and its policies can be changed before matters reach the desperate state of war.
Notice how the end part of that is getting ready for rebellion. I feel like
Did they?
Yeah, because the apartheid structure dissolved as a direct consequence of pressure campaigns and also militancy, which Nelson Mandela, not once, but twice, was presented with the option of having a sentence commuted, which he refused to do. They said,
on principle, on principle. He said, I will not remain in jail because a prisoner can't negotiate. A prisoner can't decide.
First time.
He said both times. He refused on principle. Less than 100 people died during the 20-year period. Anyone that attacked civilians, they were disavowed. The ANC repeatedly apologized and disavowed violence against civilians.
When did they do that?
Less than 100 civilians died.
When did they do that?
Hamas killed 1,000 civilians on one fucking day.
1,000 civilians? The poor civilian Israeli soldiers that died in their military bases. The civilians.
There was bro, you're so dumb.
What are you so dumb? These numbers
how many civilians died? How many civilians died?
I believe the total number of casualties on October 7 was 1,200, with 800 being civilians, which is completely unacceptable.
Oh my God, I'm off by 100.
Military members.
I was off by 100. Oh my God, dude, I can't believe the historical inaccuracies.
You're the one who's bringing up numbers here, Ethan. And yes, I do think.
Oh man, this is just so fucking hilarious. All right, so Page of Cups for Hasan, reverse 6 of Swords that popped out, so I put it in the middle, and a reverse Emperor for Ethan. Right now, I mean, this reverse 6 of Swords, I think, has a lot to do with what we're going to have to deal with and what I was talking about, where this is just like a bunch of fucking guys just fucking yelling at each other. It's going to just keep going and going and going, and I don't think we're going to really get anyone to stick to a certain point anymore. They're going to talk about this Nelson Mandela thing, but I don't even know where that's going to go, right? Like, do you think it's really going to... Do you think they're going to come to some conclusion about Nelson Mandela and Zionism? Who knows? I mean, we got a long thing here, so who knows? Reverse Emperor versus the Page of Cups. Hasan now has to deal with Ethan as he is now. After this 4-hour debate, right? 4 hours of debating Ethan. Both of them somewhat hating each other. Both of them mostly doing this out of hatred for each other and not out of really anything else. And now Ethan does kind of feel like he's better than Hasan. Maybe Ethan could have possibly started the whole thing with some kind of, I don't know what I'm doing, but not anymore. I think Ethan at the very least thinks he's beaten Hasan and is probably, I don't know, tired. I would be tired. And now Hasan has to deal with that. Hasan has to deal with this kind of like new chapter in this debate. You are dealing with someone who thinks you are stupid and who thinks you will not come up with a good point. And the few times you do, he's going to get out of it pretty quickly. He's going to move on because he's the Wheel of Fortune. He's the star. He's just going to move on. He's not really concerned about anything that you could say that would actually stump him. He doesn't think you can. And the few times you do, he will just be like, all right, whatever, and then move on. What do we know after 4.5 hours of this shit? They're just gonna keep doing the same bullshit until it ends. All the way up to here it's going to be the same vibes. If they had someone there reading tarot for them, or even moderating, just a moderator for the debate, this could have all gone differently for Hasan and for Ethan. But it wouldn't have worked out for Ethan as well, only because in this context, in the way this debate is structured, a way that Hasan completely approves of, by the way. Like, it doesn't seem that Hasan was very much opposed to any of it. And if he was, he didn't really take the time to properly spell it out. It just seems that Ethan is going to come out of this slightly victorious. Victorious in his own eyes, victorious in the eyes of many in the YouTube community. I mean, this is like a month's, like, this is like this is like an entire month at this point. And from my recollection, there's not a lot of videos out there saying that Hasan won this debate. But then again, you know, I don't delve deeply into these things, so I don't really know. I know Destiny is always going to be pro Ethan, so I don't care what Destiny has to say. But I haven't seen anything really pro Hasan that would be from, like, I don't know, like a respectable community, right? I haven't even seen Sam Cedar really talk about this at all. And Sam Cedar came into an original debate to defend Hasan. I don't know. I haven't looked too deeply, but I haven't really seen much. I think the reverse Six of Swords is really going to define the rest of this debate. Probably the whole debate. I wouldn't be surprised. Because it is kind of just chaos right now. Just emotional, combative chaos.
It's important to recognize something here that you are seemingly failing to recognize. Nelson Mandela was thrown in prison because he went and trained with the FLN in Algeria. The reason why he stayed in fucking prison was because he refused to disavow violence, because he understood that as long as peaceful revolution is impossible, that violent revolution is inevitable. And violent revolution they did do.
You know what's funny?
In terms of the death and destruction on the apartheid structure, by the way, it is incomprehensible to compare that to Israel's violence against the Palestinians. What Israel has done to the Palestinians is far worse. And by the way, that's not my assessment. What Israel has done to the Palestinians for the past 76 years is infinitely worse. And that is not my assessment, by the way. That is the assessment of Mandela. And for all the, for all of the moments that he was able to fucking
see. You think
say.
Mandela said what's happening is worse than what we went through? That's bullshit. Why would we say that?
Why? Because it's true, Ethan. That's why.
Is Nelson Mandela a Zionist?
Yes, Nelson Mandela. Are you going to say in 1999 he said Israel has a legal right to exist? In that same speech that you're going to call him.
Remember that you called this guy a neo-Nazi, not fit to be a dog catcher.
Who? What? Wait, what are you talking about? Whoa, you're jumping off like a million different points. What?
The right of Israel to exist as a state legally. We have stood quite openly and firmly for the right of that state to exist within secured borders.
You disagree with that statement?
Israel has a right to exist, not in the way that it currently does.
Within secure borders.
Hold on.
Coward.
Do you know what he says after that clip?
Yeah, that he also thinks that Palestinians also need to be acknowledged. Which, by the way, is my fucking point.
No, not that.
Palestinian liberation and Israeli borders are two sides of the same coin.
He didn't just say Palestinians also need to be acknowledged.
What did he say?
He says that if peaceful means of coexistence is impossible, then violence is inevitable, Ethan. Why did you clip that out of the fucking clip chimp that you posted, Ethan?
Did you say that clip chimp Nelson Mandela?
Yes, you literally did. You cut him out of context. Because it doesn't suit your fucking purpose.
What do you mean? He's talking philosophically. He's talking philosophically.
We're having a conversation about Nelson Mandela and whether or not he actually believes in violence. Whether or not he actually believes in violence. You have said time and time again that he was a peaceful dove. He's never actually done any violence.
No, I literally didn't.
There are numerous instances on
inevitability, a philosophical warning is not an endorsement. He was speaking as a warning to them, which was apt.
Brother, that is insane. Nelson Mandela was literally on a terror watch list since 2008.
Who gives a fuck?
What do you mean who gives a fuck? You like to use the terrorism watches when you're talking about the Houthis, or you like to use the terrorist watches when you're talking about Hezbollah and Hamas.
I gave you specific examples of why those organizations are bad.
Who do you think that was a philosophical point that he was making? The guy who was in prison for violent resistance, by the way, who trained militants ready for rebellion, by the way. Who do you think that was a warning to? Do you think that was a warning to Palestinians, or do you think that was a warning to Israel?
The fact that you are so
Nelson Mandela has time and time again also repeated that no one is free until Palestine is free. That same Nelson Mandela, who you're trying to fucking use in this situation, has said that this is a united struggle, that Israel's actions against the Palestinians are abhorrent, that it is akin to what they have experienced in apartheid South Africa, if not worse. So the idea that you can make this comparison because you think
I want Palestine to be free, my friend.
Is so stupid. And the only way you can do that is by cutting it out of context.
No, I just explained why. Dude, I want Palestine to be free. But you know what? I don't think Hamas is furthering that goal. I think Hamas is counterproductive. They're making it worse. They're causing it to be inevitable. You refuse to criticize them, which is pathetic. Unlike me, I'm willing to criticize the Israeli government. I'm willing to come to terms with the cruel reality. Hamas.
Why are they making it worse?
What was the fucking objective there on October 7th, genius?
Kidnapping, which by the way I don't even agree with, which is an international human rights violation. But kidnapping Israeli soldiers, Israeli civilians to draw.
And what part about that was slaughtering fucking families in their homes?
Ethan, I don't agree.
Their goal was
with
to kill civilians.
You know this already. We're not relitigating this over and over again. After
I'm just saying, Hamas is a bunch of
fucking genocide. Okay. What do you think? What do you think?
One day you're gonna watch a video response I make.
Probably not. When you apologize for all the fucking harm that you've done.
Apologize? Okay,
Yeah.
all right. Listen.
I have the rest of the clip that you clipped, Chip, by the way, if you want to hear his actual fucking full-fleshed opinions.
I'm not hiding from it. I literally acknowledge what he said. I don't care.
But so why did you say that he was actually why did you say that he was
point I was
actually
making-
a peaceful resistance type of guy?
When did I say that? When the fuck did I say that, you
You
liar?
said it on numerous occasions as opposed to you
Lie.
said that on numerous occasions before
I
someone
said
told
he
you,
used
no, actually,
violent.
here's a better way to massage that
You are a
narrative.
liar. I said he uses violent means such as sabotage. He didn't kill civilians. That's what I said.
Will you stop talking if I show you numerous instances where you have said Nelson Mandela was peaceful?
I'm not gonna. You get those together, okay?
I mean, there's.
You're
you
gonna
say
do
he's a
great.
pacifist.
You're gonna do great.
Ethan,
Yeah,
you
go ahead and
literally
grab
said it was
those.
a pacifist. To Sam
I
Cedar.
literally never said Nelson Mandela was a
Ethan,
pacifist.
you said it
That is
to
an
a-
insane
You
lie.
said it to Sam Cedar 2 days ago.
So you gotta watch that back because you're once again a liar. You have no problem lying. You have no problem saying that I work with the ADL without any evidence. You
Ethan,
fucking have no
you've
problem
said on
discrediting
numerous
the
occasions
suffering
that
of Jewish
Nelson Mandela
refugees.
is a pacifist.
Okay, well, prove
And
it.
the full quote, by the way, of Nelson Mandela is from when he visited Gaza in
When did I call him a
1999, referring to
pacifist?
choose peace rather than
That's
confrontation, except in cases where we cannot move forward. Then, if the only alternative is violence, we will use violence.
Yeah.
Does that sound like a pacifist to you?
I meant that he didn't kill
Do you
civilians.
think
His
Nelson Mandela
approach
would fuck
is
with the
vastly
Houthis?
different than what Hamas
Do you
is
think
doing.
Nelson Mandela would like what the Houthis are doing?
I don't know. Let's fucking dig him out of his grave and ask him.
That's kind of weird because, I mean, you said he was doing peaceful means of resistance.
Do I
like
think Nelson
sabotage.
Mandela would be in favor of kidnapping 10 civilians? No, of
Yes,
course
he
not.
would. 100% he would.
All right, well, while you're busy putting words in a dead
100%
man's
he would.
mouth.
What are you talking about? Nelson Mandela bombed the fucking church and shit. What are you talking about? Nelson Mandela, not Nelson Mandela directly.
He
the president.
didn't fuck with civilians, bro. That was his thing. He wanted to be as peaceful as possible because he knew that if he killed and targeted civilians, it would make
no,
reunification
you're right.
impossible.
Israel's doing
That's
genocide
a
because
historical
Palestinians are not
fact.
resisting in the
Less than
Arab
100
Israelis.
civilians died in a 20-year period. I mean, what do you want more than that? Hamas killed 1,000 or 900. So sorry.
800. But also,
I am so 800. You're right. You know what? That's better.
Seemingly important. You're the one who
That's
brings the
better.
numbers. Now, what you again fail to recognize is, of course, the length. And not only that, but also the resistance against apartheid South Africa included military resistance on top of that. But that's not even my point here, okay?
Huh?
My point is that the apartheid in South Africa and the resistance against it was a far shorter period with far less casualties on the South African side as opposed to Israel's complete ethnic cleansing campaign that has started now, but even before its ethnic cleansing campaign.
Well, then don't compare Hamas to Nelson Mandela.
Because the situation is far worse, Ethan. Because
why do you
Israel has
think-
killed
all
every
right.
Nelson Mandela. Israel would have probably killed Nelson Mandela if they had the opportunity to do so.
I'm sure they would have done everything bad that's ever happened in the world.
Wait, do you know why I said that? No, don't look at your laptop. Do you know why I said
I'm
that?
not. Let me guess. You, I don't. Oh, tell me.
No, go ahead. Just throw up a guess.
All right, listen. It's 5 o'clock. I'm not doing this.
Oh, you don't wanna
you
do
can
this,
tell me or
okay.
you cannot. You want to? I'll stand here if you want to tell me. But I'm not going to sit here and play with
Israel was
rhetorical
aligned
games.
with South Africa, the apartheid government, as a matter
Yeah,
of
I know.
fact.
They made nuclear bombs with them. It's horrible.
Yeah, it's horrible.
What's that have to do with anything?
Yeah.
Fuckhead. When did I defend
Both
that?
apartheids, so.
Yeah. And when did I deny that? All right, listen. It's 5 o'clock. Like I said, I have a family.
Okay, so we started off with the Ten of Pentacles for Hasan, and I do think, like, I'm glad that I waited because I was about to pause, but I was like, you know what, let's let this drag out a little bit longer. And of course, he did his little thing, which, you know, really made him look like a fucking idiot. Because Ten of Pentacles basically is saying, like, okay, you got something going here, dude. Fucking Nelson Mandela was a terrorist. You know, by definition, he was, right? Now, violence is a term that is hard to really boil down. To Ethan, it means actually causing harm to real people. And, you know, technically, I can see that. Property destruction, according to green anarchists, who I'm very sympathetic towards, is not violence. It's just a necessary way to get things done. So it's something that's kind of cool to talk about, right? I mean, if you guys really wanted to fucking talk about it, that would be kind of cool, right? Reverse Page of Cups versus Ten of Pentacles. That could have been an interesting conversation. Interesting that we then go to a reverse Page of Pentacles for Hasan on top of the Ten of Pentacles, and then we got a, you know, reverse Page of Cups with Ethan that goes straight to a death card, which is kind of interesting because in some ways it's like, okay, now Ethan is saying he has to go, and that's the way I view it. I think Ethan is done. He sees where this has gone. In some ways, I do think that there is a conversation worth having here, but neither of these folks, reverse Nine of Wands for Hasan on the final draw there, and I think none of these folks really have an intention on having that conversation. I repeat myself 1,000 times at this point, so I'm not going to, but you know why, right? And then finally a Hierophant for Ethan, which I think is like maybe after this whole death thing, you know, he's going to have a much more refined belief system on this whole thing. Or maybe it's just the death of his view that this is something even worth talking about, and maybe his transcendence, maybe his enlightened viewpoint, maybe what he sees is that this is just no longer worth talking about. Who knows? I mean, I haven't really followed up on anything. I'm sure that this is still going on in some drama way that I just am not aware of because I don't really... I watch the news. Like, I mean, as far as YouTube stuff goes, I mean, and I'm not saying that as an elitist thing. I watch Piers Morgan, all right? That's not elitist news. That's fucking junk food news, all right? But that's what I watch. TYT, Pierce Morgan, the Majority Report, Jubilee. I watch debates and the news. That's what I like. So I don't really know too much about the drama and what's going on. But in a way, I see this death followed by Hierophant. I mean, like, if you were to get this drawing in a neutral setting, if you're just getting a tarot reading and you get death followed by Hierophant, I think that means, like, you're about to fucking take 8 grams of mushroom and experience something so fucking profound and disintegrating. Like, your entire soul will be dissolved and it will fall into a fucking pit of black hole quantum particles, and it will return as something completely new and different. But in this case, I guess it just means that Ethan is tired of this shit, and he understands finally how much this is not worth debating, and how much this isn't for him. But also, it's like, it's not even like it's not for him because he's stupid. It's just not for him because he's above it. He's stupid, so he shouldn't be debating things. But he's also above debating Hasan on anything. Really, I think that's what he's coming to terms with. And Hasan, on the other hand, I don't think he's learning much. Unfortunately, I don't think he's learned anything. He is the devil, right? And he's the tower and the devil. I'm curious. The tower, I mean, I guess it has to do with the collapse of this friendship and the ability for these people to ever. And I also think it's the collapse of Hasan's credibility. So that's a way to look at it. And so the devil here for Hasan is mostly just like, dude, this is what's going to basically hold you back. Is just your fucking smirks, kind of like you all of a sudden become a fucking 14-year-old boy when the debate isn't going exactly the way you want it to. That's not a good look. And it's ironic because you care about what people think of you. You care about how you look. It's very superficial. It will be your poetic justice for people to think you look like an idiot. And that, I'm just saying what the cards, and this is not my bias here, guys, all right? This is just what the cards are saying. For all, my bias is just a good way to help everyone get completely on board with the reality here.
Family to go to. I have 3 kids and a wife, and I know that you have a fucking cool-ass race car bed to sleep in, and I hope you enjoy that.
Okay, man. Thank you. Have a good one. I hope this was productive. Dan, he needs you more than you need him. Stop babying this man, please. He needs you more than you need him. Stop babying him.
Well, I know that's true, but I don't baby him.
Come on. Okay. All right.
You want to target the crew more?
I'm not targeting the crew. I have a tremendous amount of respect for the crew. They are
Bad Empanada called AB a house slave.
What?
Bad Empanada called AB a house
He's
slave.
wrong. What the fuck do you want? I've never.
Okay, well, you watch his videos a lot.
Do you think I agree with everything he says? No, of course not.
You endorse him.
Ethan, I've endorsed
these
YouTube videos.
You promote him all the time. That's a fact.
I agree with that. I think are very well thought out. I don't endorse.
Listen, stop being a coward and watch some fair criticism. Please stop being a coward and just watch some criticism. It will prove that you are not afraid.
This was pretty productive. Having this conversation, having this back and forth. Don't you think?
I actually do. I think you expose yourself deeply a few times here, and I think we'll have to wait and see, obviously, how this pans out. But I do think it was productive to show just kind of the blatant, overt, anti-Semitism.
Maybe I will watch the context puke.
Yes, please, and then we can talk about it if you want.
Live, as a matter of fact.
Yes, please do.
I like that this is what it's come to, where having a face-to-face conversation is less. Is somehow
it's not
less fucking is more cowardly than like actually watching a YouTube video that you made. No, dude, what's cowardly is you fucking constantly crying and refusing to actually look for context and putting together putting together shit that you saw on fucking subreddits to be like, this is my argument.
Please just watch it and tear it up and show how out of context it was. I love that.
Maybe I'll actually do that to fundraise for the charities that you are actively targeting by trying to undermine and celebrate with Creator Clash 3, which is
I don't know if you know this, but the last year they lost $250,000. To be charitable, you actually have to give money to charity, Hasan.
Everybody that has even lightly fucking criticized you or stayed out of.
Are you surprised that I didn't like Ian's video?
What? No, dude.
Dude, if you want to own me, listen, Hasan, if you want to own me by donating to charity, I think that's fantastic.
That fucking charity event is actually like you're trying to undermine a charity event deliberately.
You have to give money to be charity. It's like a slush fund for them.
God, it's so gross, man. Okay.
I mean, what happened last year? How much did they do charity last year?
I don't know.
They lost $250,000.
Will you debate me again, Ethan, if you keep chirping in the future?
Yeah, of course. But if you, I think it would be good if you watch content puke.
Maybe I'll do that.
And then we can discuss it.
Maybe I'll do that to fundraise for Creator Clash.
Yes, I think it's awesome. If you want to own me by donating to charity, I think that's sick as fuck.
Yeah, maybe you should do that too. Donate some pro-Palestine charities. I'll feel so fucking owned.
Let's own each other and donate to charity.
All right.
I know you guys hate each other, but the views were crazy.
It was. I never looked.
Think about it.
What was the views? I never looked.
They're pretty good on both ends. Like 100K.
Whose was higher?
Don't ask that question.
Hassan's was higher?
Hassan's was higher.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Not that much, but it was higher.
That's not good.
I mean, I had 120,000. I don't know what you guys had over there. I wasn't looking, but.
We got up to about 100K. So.
Well, we're gonna have to do something. These people are clearly have some kind of brain disease, and we need to do something about it.
No, for sure. Ethan, please keep up the energy as though you feel that there is a genocide going on, because your output is what matters here, and that is why we're trying to get across to you and get across to your audience. If you think that this,
I acknowledge that I acknowledge that I can talk about it more, and I should make more of an effort to talk about
okay,
it.
thank you. Instead of going after
You should try not to be a fucking raging anti-Semite for a day.
What?
If you can try not to be a raging anti-Semite for a day, then we can
I
shake
don't
hands.
think you actually believe that I'm anti-Semitic. I think you're hysterical.
You should watch back the first part of this interview.
What?
You should watch back the first part of this interview.
Yeah.
I don't think that makes you good.
Okay, well, I guess we'll wait and see.
Yeah, we'll wait.
Unfortunately, I think your people are going to think it makes you look good, and then everybody else is going to think that might look good. Like, who's a fuck?
Yes,
At the end of the day,
I'm sure that
it's not a swastika. It's just
Yo, I mean, I love that, right? They just kind of concluded with everything that I was saying for the past 4 hours, right? The first half of the interview, it's not a good look for Hasan if he's trying to not look like a anti-Semite, right? The four swords, the swastika sword, we know. Hasan is at least subconsciously battling with anti-Semitism. I don't think he's explicitly an anti-Semite, but he doesn't get it. He doesn't understand. That's why he's saying, come on, you're hysterical if you think I'm an anti-Semite. Maybe he's wrong to say that you are truly an anti-Semite, but you are not addressing his points if you think he's hysterical, right? That's kind of like crazy. You're saying that he's crazy to think you're an anti-Semite after he's given at least a pretty good argument for why you are, or at least why he thinks you are. And the fact that you kind of eye-rolled, giggled your way out of that one kind of only reinforces in Ethan's mind that you are an anti-Semite and you don't really want to address it. I mean, on the left, we understand that racism. I already made these points, but, just to re-emphasize, on the left, we understand that racism is not all about, I believe my race is superior and I believe that race is inferior. That's not really what racism is. It is multifaceted. There are various ways that it manifests within the individual and within society and how the individual interacts with society. It's possible that you could be anti-Semitic even if you don't think you are. So at the very least, if you're on the left, you can acknowledge that and then listen to Ethan's points and try to address them in good faith. But that's not what he did. So Ethan doesn't believe him. All right, so now to the cards. 6 of Wands for Hasan. I think that's a way to conclude. I mean, it really seemed that he thinks he won, right? Like he thinks he won the debate. And that's just how it is. I disagree. In some way, he won. He had more viewership, which did kind of matter to Ethan in a very slight way, but it didn't matter in a way that probably is significant. But, there's some victory there. But in Hasan's head, he is victorious. And in viewership count, he is victorious. But that's probably the best you can get. And then we got a reverse death card, which is interesting because, he had a death card at first. And then I was saying, yeah, he's ready to wrap this up. And I think the reverse death card, I let it keep going because I was like, you know what? That's pretty much the way Ethan is. He should have just killed the debate immediately, but he just kept it going and it obviously didn't go anywhere. So now they're at this point where Hasan is congratulating himself and also bringing up that, he's saying literally, you just don't look good, dude, or you don't realize how bad you look. And Ethan is just saying, yeah, you only care about how you look. These guys are concluding it all for me. And then I have this mystery card. It was left behind as I was shuffling, and I was like, you know what? What is the conclusion we should get from this debate, right? Like this entire conversation. I'll let this run a little bit, and then I'll flip it.
The swastika sword. It's not a swastika. It's just the sword that I call the swastika sword. Got it. All right,
damn it.
I gotta go. You too, buddy.
You gotta be kidding me. Because he said swastika sword, and I was going to be like, oh my god, please be a 4 of swords. And it was a 2 of swords. Not the same. It's very close, right? It's very close. But it's not the same. Oh, that would have been beautiful, man. I would have fucking gone and played the lottery. If that's what I would have fucking played a 13, a 2, and a 6 on the lottery ticket. Or a 4. If it was a 4 swords, I would have probably just kept doing the things that I'm doing right now. But holy shit, that would have been amazing, right? But instead we got a 2 of swords, which is not as fun of a fucking In some ways, maybe what I could see the Two of Swords as is like, okay, what do we get out of this? Who do we decide? Are we choosing between this was victorious of a fucking conversation, or we won the conversation, or are we choosing between like, nah, I mean, we should probably just fucking KIL some of these peeps. I don't know. It's funny. Every time I fucking do, what do we learn from all of this? I don't get this a card that really helps it. I could draw some more cards, right? Hopefully, like, okay, what are the two choices, huh? Is it the two choices, the Six of Wands versus Reverse Death? Is it that we simply come down to like, well, who do you think won? I don't think either of these guys won, so maybe that's what it is. It's kind of like an equal footing, even though I think Ethan did better overall. It's not like I agree with some of Ethan's actual political points that he's making. I think he's unfairly characterized by Hasan and his kind, like the very radical Twitch type of leftists. I don't think Ethan is in any way correct to those folks, but to me, it seems that Ethan's just a moderate. He doesn't seem that he's at the very least is on the side of Gaza, right? Like, he wants Palestine to have their own state. He is against the genocide. He thinks Netanyahu's a war criminal. Like, all these things that are kind of like, yeah, this is pretty good. Are there two choices beyond that? Is it the Sun and the Nine of Wands? So if I were to say it's either between victory and death, which is an interesting choice to ever have to make, right? I mean, these cards might as well be drawing for something else, right? Maybe it has to do with fucking Palestine's fucking only choice. That's how the way to look at Hamas, right? To them, it's either victory or death. I guess a lot of Israelis, especially in the IDF and in the government, see it as victory or death. So the Sun and the Nine of Wands, as a clarification for this Two of Swords thing, might just be, 9, 19, 2. Oh. I guess it's a matter of, like, if any of you guys care about this fucking subject, you're going to have to go through a lot of shit. You're going to have to deal with a lot of Hasans and Ethans as you try to fucking navigate this awful situation. And it's not necessarily like every Hasan/Ethan that you interact with is going to be as bad as Hasan and Ethan, but I think you're going to have to deal with a lot of these arguments in general. This is a very good representation of like how bad a conversation can get about this topic between two people who are mostly on the same side with just slight alterations. And also remember, a lot of the drawings we were having in the first half of this debate, and the fact that Ethan is a Cancer and Hasan is a Leo, and a lot of the cards we were drawing initially were saying that these guys are very close, but they're slightly different, and that slight difference seems to make a world difference. It causes a lot of what makes them similar to clash heavily. So if it's that bad between two people who are mostly the same, with just minor differences, then imagine how bad it is between people who actually disagree on the subject. It's very difficult. And if I were to give my 2 cents on this, after everything I've seen, and after my own conversations with, right now I'm talking with a college friend who, he is Jewish, and he views himself as a Zionist, but his view of Zionism is, in my mind, not at all what Zionism is. It forces me to navigate that conversation very carefully, because at the end of the day, he is an old friend, right? And he means well. He hates the Israeli government. He hates Netanyahu. He hates that the genocide is happening. He just wants to hold on to something. And in many ways, that's the main thing that you're going to have to deal with all the time in every conversation, every debate you have, including the most good faith debates. You are debating a human being. You're not debating facts. Ideally, you'd be debating facts, but like at the end of the day, you are debating a person, and a person who has their own experience, their own emotions. And if you want to bring out of that person the best form of their own argument, you need to be willing to listen and to treat them like a human being. And hopefully that conclusion that I give you is good enough to make you navigate this topic properly, whoever you are. All right, that's it.